This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FI Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today our guest is, we're fortunate enough to have Justin Fairfax, who is an attorney who also ran for Virginia Attorney Generals. Unfortunately, he did not win the election, but he has a bright future ahead of him, and we wish him good luck as he undertakes the new journey after his elections. Thank you very much, Justin, for coming.
Thank you very much,
We appreciate that very much.
Honored to be with you.
Thank you. Let's talk about this case, which is George Zimmerman as well as versus Martin. The president spoke about it.
Right.
There's Attorney General spoke about it.
Yes.
There's a lot of things to talk about it. Tell me a little bit about the case and where the prosecution went wrong, and what do we have to do?
Yes, thank you so much, Frank. Again, I'm so honored to be back with you, and this is such an important case, so I'm happy to be here to talk about it.
It is.
You know, I should start by saying I'm a former federal prosecutor, so I've tried cases before, and my heart, first of all, goes out to the family of Trayvon Martin, his parents.
And he was, when he got shot, he didn't have any weapon.
Exactly. He had no weapons. Was just walking home at night.
Absolutely right.
Doing nothing wrong. And that's really the tragedy in this case.
But you have to also remember, this is a jury. The jury was selected.
Right.
And we have to have a faith in the confidence of our judiciary system. So go ahead.
That's
what I said, and it's all yours. Explain to us a little bit. Tell the audience, which is very important to this audience, to everybody in the world, in this community.
Absolutely.
In this country. Go ahead.
Well, Frank, you made excellent points. You know, we have a system, a judicial system, where we rely on juries to make determinations, and we have to respect the outcome of those decisions. And so I did it as a federal prosecutor. We do it as citizens every day, and it's very important that we maintain that rule of law. That said, you also asked about the prosecution and where they may have gone wrong. You know, you can second guess a number of things about a prosecution, and I'm sure that folks have second guessed, you know, any number of prosecutors in the past. But what I do think is that there were some instances that raised some questions. There was a delay in the time between the crime and the actual charges. There was, I believe, 44 days between the actual crime and the charges being filed. So that presents some issues about witness recollection, preservation of evidence, you know, memories of people having faded over some time. So that's one issue. Trial tactics can always be, you know, examined, and if things could have been done better. Preparing witnesses is something that.
And I guess the witness didn't do very well.
There were a number of witnesses, and the star witness, right, there was some criticism about her testimony, and you know, she's another young person, and you know, having put witnesses on the stand before, I know that, you know, you often get the witnesses that you do get, and so, but I think under the circumstances, I mean, she performed reasonably well given her age and experience, and you know, so all those factors go into a trial, and we know at the end of the day you get an outcome. You know, it's guilty or not guilty, or a hung jury, and in this case they found George Zimmerman not guilty. While I, you know, may take a different view of what I saw of the evidence, I think that at the end of the day we have to do what you said, which is to respect the verdict of the jury.
What the prosecutor should have done to educate the jury?
You know, I think in preparing,
preparing the witnesses.
Absolutely. You know,
and making their case.
Right. You know, again, I don't want to second guess everything that they did, knowing how sensitive it can be being a former prosecutor. But you know, for instance, with the star witness, you know, sometimes there are, you know, issues of folks relating to a jury, and
you're right.
You never know how people are going to react to a particular witness. But it's nice to be able to soften the ground a little bit and make sure that folks can connect as best that they can.
Sure. The president talked about a little bit about race.
Right.
And the president talked about that Trayvon Martin, who was killed when he was a teenager, could have been him 35 years ago.
Right.
The president spoke eloquently. He spoke from his heart.
Right, absolutely.
So my question to you is, was it racially motivated? As you know, George Zimmerman's mother is a Puerto Rican, and his father is a Caucasian.
Right.
So he has some Hispanic blood as well.
Right.
And Hispanic is also a minority in this community. So let's talk a little about, was it racially motivated?
Yeah, you know, and I think that people obviously have different takes on this case.
Sure.
And look through it, as the president noted, with different eyes.
Yes.
You know, certain communities, minority communities, look at this differently in many cases than others. I will say, based on what I know of the case and what I saw, I think race was a factor. I really do believe that. And, you mentioned George Zimmerman's background. There was also some background about his trying to become a police officer and his having been overzealous as part of this neighborhood watch and called the police on others, including, I believe, a number of other young minority males in the neighborhood leading up to this particular incident. And so I believe race was a factor. I really do. And and also I think the lack of respect for proper training of law enforcement by George Zimmerman. I mean, this is not something that citizens should go out and become vigilantes and do. This is for the well-trained law enforcement to deal with these situations. And in fact, the 911 dispatcher told George Zimmerman to not get out of the car and to not follow Trayvon Martin. And if he had listened to that advice, we believe Trayvon Martin would be alive today. So it's a combination of all those things, and it created this really tragic circumstance that I hope is not repeated.
I totally agree. We don't take a pride in our darkest past when it comes to race.
That's right.
As you all know, that the minorities has confronted hostility and open prejudice in this country.
Absolutely.
They share a city but not a community.
Right.
They share a common dwelling but not in a common effort. Right. So the question is, and the president said very eloquently that when African American rides an elevator, if a girl who is not African American, who's not a minority, will look a black person as suspicious.
Right.
However, it is bred in our gene. Somehow we are different, but we are part of America also, and it has been our darkest past, as I said.
Right.
So, if it was racially motivated, and which was, as you said that many times, what do we have to do to make sure things like that will happen? And also, I want you to reflect on the fact of the stand the ground law, what we have to do with those laws to repeal it or not, and also the fact, is this the end or is it just the beginning?
Right.
I want you to talk about all the three things that we just mentioned to you. Justin, you're well qualified to talk about these things.
Well, Frank, those are fantastic questions, as always, and they get really to the heart of the issue, so I'll take them one at a time.
Sure.
First, with regard to the racial history in this country and issues that we've confronted, you're exactly right, and we have to grapple with that. We can't ignore it. We can't act like it doesn't exist, because when we do that, those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. As you know, and so we hit these points in along our journey as a country in a more perfect
union. But we have come a long way just in this country.
We have come a very long way. And Frank, one thing that really gives me hope is, not only the president's words, but our conversations and your example. You and I believe in a more hopeful America.
We do.
We believe in a place where we can come to share a community and everybody gets the same opportunity.
Totally agree with you.
And so I think that there are opportunities where there are challenges. There are also opportunities. And so I think we have to continue to talk about these things openly, as you and so many others have done. We have to grapple with these things, but I think we can get to a better place, and I'm very confident that we will. I also think on the stand your ground law, which was another question that you had.
Yes. Is this the same thing in Virginia or just in Florida?
It's in Florida and a number of other states.
Okay.
Virginia does not have a specific law, a statute, a stand your ground statute, but we do have some legal tenets in common law that approximate stand your ground. So just to be very clear and simplistic about it, stand your ground says that you don't have a duty to retreat. So that if you get into a fight or if someone breaks into your home or your car, you have the right to use lethal force under stand your ground law. I personally am opposed to stand your ground laws in statutes. I think they invite this kind of conflict and unnecessarily provoke people to engage people with lethal force. Right. I think that's what we saw in Florida. And we have, a body of law, hundreds of years of common law about self-defense. If you are in fear of death or imminent bodily injury, then you have the right to use lethal force under certain circumstances. So people can still protect themselves without being gratuitous about it, without going out and seeking opportunities to use lethal force.
Do you think that people in Florida will repeal this law?
I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would hope so.
And after this case, at least,
without question, and and in other states as well. And I hope that Virginia does not enact.
Right, I totally agree. So let's talk about now the law. We talked about a lot of traditional motivations. The question is this the end of the Joe Zimmerman case? Or what are we going to do? What are they going to be doing?
Yeah, well,
they're going to be retrying.
Yeah, it is the end of the state case, the state criminal case.
Okay.
Because
so what will be the next step, Justin?
Right. So the other options are that the federal government could prosecute George Zimmerman for federal civil rights violations.
Okay. True.
And so as the Attorney General Holder mentioned, I think they're looking at potential charges. It would have to fit within specific civil rights laws that exist. So they can't just charge them, as a state would charge them for murder and that's it. They would have to find specific statutory authority to do that. So I think they're looking at their options and they may bring a case. You also have civil litigation where the family of Trayvon Martin has the opportunity to sue George Zimmerman.
So that'll be in civil court?
That would be in civil court in the state. So this could continue on in the courts, but as far as the state case itself, double jeopardy prevents the state from retrying him on these criminal charges. And but unfortunately,
is this a long drawn process? And it costs money also?
Absolutely, it can be. Another example, that a lot of viewers, I'm sure, would recall is the Rodney King case.
The one in L.A.
Exactly, the one in L.A.
He passed away, didn't he?
He did. He did. And back a little over 20 years ago,
exactly.
You'll recall, there were officers who were acquitted of his beating.
Right.
They were then later tried on federal civil rights charges.
And they were charged. They were acquitted.
Some were charged, I believe, and some were convicted, and others weren't. And so that can drag on, but that took years, and as you mentioned, a lot of money. There was also a civil suit in that case as well, where some of the officers were held accountable. So, it can drag on for years. It's tough on the family. It's tough, on the public consciousness. And but like you said, we have to grapple with these things to get to a higher ground and to a better place. And I'm hopeful that we'll do that.
So, what lessons we have learned from this experience?
Yeah, I think first is that we've got to get to know each other better.
As a community?
As a community. And you put it brilliantly. We share oftentimes a city, but not a community. I think that
we share a common dwelling, but not in a common effort.
That's right. And that's got to change.
And we share a common fear.
We do. We often share a common fear and a common lack of experience.
Exactly.
With others, which breeds suspicion and fear.
You got it. You said it very well.
And so we've got to change that. And I think that that's something that, interaction, diversity efforts, and open dialogue, I think will help us to get to a better place there. And I think, on a practical level, we've got to discourage people from taking the law into their own hands, particularly people who are not trained in law enforcement, because you get tragedies like this that happen as a result. So we've got to get better as a community. We've got to get better as citizens and be more thoughtful about others. And I think that the combination of things and time will help us heal those wounds.
Do you think the nation will be healed?
I hope so.
It took a long time after the civil rights movement back in 1960 to heal this nation.
Absolutely, and and some would say there's still issues that need to be resolved, and I think that we're on a long journey. And as you mentioned, we've come a very long way. So I'm hopeful about that, but we still have some very deep-seated issues that we have to work through as a nation together. And we've got to make sure that our fundamental principles are the ones that are in the Constitution. We're all created equal. We all have the same shot at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that everybody's child is a child of the community. That we all look out for everyone's child walking home, just wants to be safe. I want all of our children to be safe going forward.
So it reminds us of Martin Luther once again, the stone of hope.
Yes.
There is a stone of hope.
Absolutely, there really is, and there's so many people. As down as people get about this case, and as down as myself and my family got about it, I run into people who really are hopeful that if we work through these issues, if we're open, if we talk about them, we can get to a much better place, and I believe that we will. I think that people need to be held accountable when they engage in things and they harm people and they kill in this instance. But I also want us to get to a much better place.
What made him to kill?
It's hard to say.
There's a lot of stories behind it. A lot of people talk about a lot of different views. That everyone has a different view on this.
Right, exactly, and there is a difference of opinion.
Right.
And I think anytime you look at what's in someone's heart and in their head,
exactly,
it gets to be difficult. It's hard to find direct evidence, oftentimes, of what someone thinks or believes. So you have to piece it together. Based on statements maybe they've made or interactions people have had with them. But I think also, it was recklessness. Again, heartlessness, it really was.
Heartlessness, recklessness, you're absolutely right.
Yes, because if he had stayed in the car, if he had followed the direction of the 911 dispatcher, Trayvon Martin would be alive today, because he would not have followed him, and that's such a tragedy. It really is.
It is a tragedy that this young kid has so much to give to this country, to this nation.
Absolutely.
And he was killed.
That's exactly right.
By someone who shouldn't have really killed this guy, and he
right.
and he didn't have any weapons,
right?
Nothing. That makes the story a little bit more sad.
It really does. And wasn't, as you mentioned, didn't have weapons, wasn't doing anything suspicious, was just walking home. And how many millions of our kids every night just walk home from the store? No one has the right to go and hunt them down and confront them and to ultimately kill them. So we have got to get to a better place. We've got to not only hold people accountable, but raise our consciousness about these things. And you used a great word, heartlessness. We have got to have more heart, more caring, more consideration for other people, and I'm confident that there are much more great folks out there than there are ones who would do our kids harm, and I think we're going to win out at the end of the day.
On the other hand, we should also admire and appreciate and truly and proudly embrace America's inclusiveness and openness.
Absolutely.
We are the leader of the world.
Absolutely.
Look at the other part of the world. Our diversity has been the best hope in our nation.
That's exactly right. It really is.
It is a strength for all of us.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, America is a beacon of hope and freedom.
No
and
question
inclusion.
about it.
And
it is indeed a shining city on a hill.
It is. No, without question.
As Ronald Reagan said, as President John F. Kennedy said.
That's right. That's right.
And these are the strengths and the values of America that people admire and respect and appreciate all over the world.
That's exactly right.
But however, we have had a darkest past.
We really have. We really have. And we still see and feel the effects of that today. We still have to work through those things. And one thing you mentioned a couple of presidents. I also like what Bill Clinton had to say, which is that there's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed with what's right with America.
That is the best way to describe it. So Justin, you're a leader of this community. Yeah. You're well-spoken.
Very kind. Thank you.
Our conversation has been very constructive and thoughtful.
Thank you.
But a lot of young African Americans in the community that look at you, you should inspire them by your story. Tell them, what advice do you have for these people, for them to be successful like you are?
Yeah.
What's engaging for your successes?
Right.
And stay in college and university.
Yes.
And acquire the knowledge and experience and the skills so they can become productive force of America and our community. Tell them a little bit about these young generations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Frank, and everything that you said, those really are the keys. I think education is so critical, and I know how heavily involved you are in making sure there are educational opportunities for people. Those, in addition, educational opportunities in my family really changed what's possible for me in my life.
You're here sitting with us because you have been blessed, uniquely blessed.
That's it.
And
Absolutely.
especially in the community to get a good education.
Absolutely, and I think every child is entitled to that.
Yeah, I totally agree. So how do we make it affordable and accessible, especially for the minorities kids who have no hope, no aspirations, no dream?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, strong public education.
Well, they do have a hope and aspirations, dream, but the poverty drains them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and in instances that, like the Trayvon Martin case, I mean,
yes.
People think that, maybe it's, this country's not for them, or maybe progress is not for them. And we've got to show, not only tell people, but show people that that's not true, that this is a country for all of us, that there will be educational opportunities for all of our kids. You mentioned making it more affordable. I know that you privately support so many people,
yes.
and my family tries to do the same thing. But also, I think student loans. We saw this in the news.
Yes.
People wanted to double the interest rate for students. We can't do that and expect children and families to be able to afford to go to college. We have got to be very thoughtful about the way that we provide education, make it affordable, make it reasonable. Clean up the private student lending market. This is not an area where we should be abusing kids and turning a quick buck. This is an area where we should be investing in our future because it yields such dividends for all of us. It's called our enlightened self-interest.
Very well said.
And so we've got to continue to pursue those things, and the safety of our community is critical. Education, as you mentioned, family, making sure that our families can be together and support each other. And I've had that. And, we've talked about our families and how important they are to us.
So as we approach the dawn of this new decade,
yeah,
we need to weave into the fabric of society a sense of hope.
Absolutely.
A sense of optimism. A sense that we all in this together.
Absolutely. And Frank,
no matter who they are, we all in this together.
I couldn't say that better or more eloquently. You're exactly right. And I'm hopeful for the future.
I'm hopeful for the future, but it is important for people to see in the African American and minority community you as an example, so they can be inspired, so they can renew their dream and America's dream. People came from all over the world, every corner of the earth,
Absolutely.
And they made it.
Absolutely.
Because America has given them the opportunity.
That's right, and we've got to make sure that that's true in every corner of
You're
America.
absolutely right.
And you said it very well. This is a great country. There are flaws and issues that we have to work through. But again, I'm very hopeful that we are going to pass along a better America and a better country in the world to our children than what we have. And we've got to keep working at it. It won't be easy, but we've got to keep working at it.
That's exactly the way I feel about it. And thank you, Justin, for coming.
Thank you so much.
And good luck to you.
Thank you.
And appreciated that very, very much.
It's my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. Thank your viewers.
Thank you very much for watching. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.